Hi and welcome. This is a third video in my video series about Google activities, and today we are going to cover the Google Sheet clear activities. So we have our trusty Google Sheet here and we're going to continue working on it as well. So essentially, I'm going to show you how Google Sheet clear activities are working. If we go down to the Google Sheet activities, then we'll see that we have few clear activities. We have the delete range, we have the delete row, and we have the delete sheet activities. So let's showcase each one and explain how do they work. So if we drag and drop delete range, like in the previous videos, we can select the file that we're working with. Of course, this can be created in a way that we can dynamically select the file, placing the sheet ID there. We can select the range and we can showcase. Okay, so we have a few options. We have the clear option, which is going to delete everything. Maybe if we change the clear range, it will not delete everything, it will delete only that what we selected. But with the current setup, I think that it will delete everything. And as I said in the previous videos as well, please bear in mind if there are some mistakes, because this is not scripted. I'm just learning with you as well. And then we have behaviors. We can clear the rows. So for example, if we say clear rows, this is going to delete row, and this is going to drop down like Tetris. So it's going to this is not going to be emptied like this, it's going to be cleared completely. And we have the clear columns as well. So that's the first activity. Let's delete this one, let's put a breakpoint in here, and let's test this activity and let's see how it's working. So we have our connection in here and we can test the activity. And don't worry, we can always, good thing about the Google Sheet is that you can always return the history of the sheet. So you see that it deleted everything. So if you want to return the history on a Google Sheet, you can just click here and you can just select the previous version which you want to work with, and you will see that our history is back, so it's not a problem. So that is a clear clear, so it will clear everything, and that is probably because we selected this range, right, sheet 1. But let's do it like this. Let's put range from A2 till E, right, A2 till E. Our sheet name is sheet 1, our full range is like this, and let's do it dynamically. So we have the sheet ID. You want to use ID or URL, we're going to use that one. And for this one, we can use the variable and we can use the str clear range or full range, right? We can use the full range, and we want to use the clear activities. So now, because we're mapping this from here, we cannot start it. And let's just run the activity in debug mode and let's see how it's going to work. So if I'm correct, this is only going to delete the range from A2 till E. So it didn't delete the headers because we selected A2 till E. So this is a way how you can control this activity and how you can enable it to delete only something that you want. So most of the times you wouldn't clear the whole sheet, you want to keep the headers or you want to delete some of the data. So this is the option on how you can delete it. Okay, cool. So let's see how other options are working. So let's go back. So if you want to go back to be able to use the navigation, you can essentially clear the values, I guess, and select file picker. Then you can select the file. So using the file picker has its advantages because it is automatically giving you the data what's in the sheet, right? So that's something that you can work with. So for example, if we're going to delete the rows, now I think that when we're deleting the rows, we are just going to select the row from which we are going to delete the data from. I'm not sure exactly, but we're going to test it regardless. So if I'm not mistaken, this we just need to use the full range, so sheet 1 A2 rows. So essentially like A2 should be deleted and these three should be one up, so this one would be empty. So let's see if that is working exactly like we predicted, or is it working differently. So yeah, essentially like what happened is it deleted the A2 cell, but it didn't delete the content of it, it deleted the full cell, and you can see that these one dropped one row. So keep in mind of that, because it can come in handy and you can maybe make some mistakes because of that. Additionally, of course, like in the previous videos, this delete method can also be a variable, and you can see how that variable is being mapped out. So not this one, sorry, this is from the previous video. So a range delete mode is essentially type of UiPath, GSuite, activities, sheet, enum, range, and then we can select what we want to, right? We want columns, or we want none, or we want rows, right? So in this case we don't have clear. I'm not exactly sure why, but yeah, we can use this dynamically. Okay, and this is how you would configure the activity dynamically with all the three properties. So yeah, clear will delete all the data that is mentioned in the clear range. Okay, this is a little tip for myself, I guess. Rows, delete rows will be deleted that are mentioned in the range. Keep in mind that this is basically be like Tetris. The rows that are after that will come into that place. We also have delete rows activity. Delete rows activity will essentially, like in here we have clear or delete. So clear the selected rows, delete the selected rows, and shift the cells up. So it's pretty self-explanatory. So I'm going to test this activity, and it should delete rows 1 and 2. I guess. I don't think that it will clear this row. I think that it will actually, because I think that it's 0 based. So if we put 1 and 2, it will be these two rows. So if this is a clear behavior, it should delete the data, but if it is a delete behavior, it should delete the rows. So let's test this activity and showcase how it's working exactly. Let's take a look at this, our Google Sheet. Okay, so it's working exactly as it mentioned, right? So clear the data. Now let's check the delete. So the delete should actually delete those rows, and these rows should be moved up too. And maybe this, I think that this will be the same regardless, but I think that these two will be deleted completely. Oh, sorry, I didn't click it. Let's see. Sometimes these Google activities can be a little bit slow. Keep in mind that integration service is essentially an API connection that is keeping our authentication alive. So it's constantly communicating with our Google workspace, and sometimes Google can be slow. There's a lot of API calls going around. Keep in mind that also, like, you can have, because essentially like on your Google, let's run it again. Essentially like on your Google account, if you're running a lot of these activities, you can consider each of the activity as one API call to your Google workspace. So essentially like you have a limited number of API pings during a 1 minute period, or like 10-minute period, or something like that. So essentially like there are these quota exceptions that you can come across, And I'm telling you this because this is not something that you will run into if you're working with few Google Sheets. But if you have an entire system that is depending on Google Sheets, you will run into this. So like how you can mitigate this is you can create a retry mechanism that will delay your act. So okay, so let's say that you're running a delete range. It gives you the exception of maximum quota. What you will do, you will create it in a retry scope, and in the exception path, before returning back to the retry scope, you will delay it for 15 seconds, and that will give it enough time for your API calls to refresh, and then you can hit it again and it will be successful. Or an alternative is that you can have multiple Google accounts and you can just switch between those accounts and you can work with that, because remember, our connections are here. So if we have like 5 Google accounts that have access to the same sheet, we can use 1, 2, 3, or 4th account, and that is dynamical. So during the when you like define the option, so let's try to showcase this. But when you if you go to automation, if you go in here, if you can see that we have the activities, and each of these activities, like, you can switch between connections, right? So you can basically define the connections. For example, for these activities I will define this, but for some other activities I will define some other account. This is really important. Okay, let's get back to our Google Sheets. So I have deleted the rows 1 or 2, and you can see that these one just went up for 2 rows. So that's essentially what's going on. So let's return the version with the most data that we have, and let's test the delete sheet activity. So essentially, like, you can see it in here that I have sheet 1 and sheet 2. I want to delete the sheet 2, and for some reason it's not giving me. Let's reload it. So I guess UiPath Google Sheet tutorials example file, and now it should have. For some reason it doesn't have, but let's use it in. So it's a string which we can just use sheet 2. So it's sorry. So essentially, if we run this activity, it should delete only the sheet 2, and you can see that it deleted it. Well, I don't know where this data came from. Never mind, it's not important. But yeah, essentially that's it. We also have delete column option, and it also says like Tetris, but I guess that it depends on the behavior. If you say clear content, it will delete the content of the sheet, of the column. If you say delete, it will delete the actual column. And this is also, like, you can see in here, we have it until Z, and that's, well, we should have it more. We probably have it more. Yeah, we have all the rows in here. I think that if we delete this, it should dynamically, I don't know if we can delete it. Yeah, we can, but it should just read it. And now if you, for example, if you go to my drive, UiPath, and remember that this can all be dynamical, right? So sheet 1, and now we should only have until F, but it didn't reload, but it doesn't matter, right? So if we select column E, right, if we say clear content, so the column E should delete the content. And if has headers, so false, I'm not sure how this is working. So if it is false, should it delete all of these, or if it is false, should it delete? So let's say that it has headers, and then it will probably load. Oh, it will load headers. Okay, so let's say that we want to delete the email column, right? And we want to clear the content. So let's test how it's working. I'm not using all of these activities as well, so I'm really curious also how they are working. If it will clear. Okay, so it doesn't clear the header, it just clears the content of it. And of course, if we say delete, and then it will probably delete everything. So let's phone number 123, just in case, so we can check it how it's working. So in some logic, it should delete the email, the column E entirely, and not just these values, but I might be mistaken. Let's wait for the activity to finish. Yeah, so essentially deleted the whole column. So this headers doesn't actually matter. If it is a delete behavior, it will only help us to actually get the values. But you can also like use the variables in here, and you can also use your expression. I think it's string. Yeah, so this is string, this is a boolean. You can also use a variable in here. This is also like a range, and if you use a variable, it will be a string. So keep in mind, this is also really dynamical, because like no one is actually like going to select the files, maybe some business user, but if you're an advanced user, you're always going to use the sheet ID. So yeah, those were the activities. So far we went over, so for the delete activities, we went over delete range, delete rows, delete sheet, and the delete column. And in previous videos, we also went over write row, write range, write column, write cell, and we went over the read cell and the read range, and for each row activity. So let's just maybe do one more, because I don't have a separate video, and that is the rename sheet. It's pretty self-explanatory. So if it is a sheet 1, right, we want to give it a new name, new sheet 1, sheet 1. It's pretty simple, right? So if we run this activity, it will just rename the sheet that we're working with. So yeah, pretty awesome. There's a lot of flexibility that can work around. So essentially, like, what are the, or maybe I'll talk about the use cases in the next video. Yeah, maybe that's a better idea. So yeah, for now, you have, if you were following the tutorials, you have learned how to connect your Google account to UiPath, how to install the GSuite packages, and how to use all of the Google Sheet activities. I'm really hoping that this is helping someone. If it is, please leave a like and subscribe. And until the next video, thanks and goodbye.